Welcome to Behind the Scenes. I'm your host, Hector Montalvo. This show is dedicated to asking tough questions for you, the viewers. We bring you their responses, and we let you decide. Today I want to inform you that we have had candidates for governor, Tim Cahill and Charlie Baker, appear on our show. We've asked the question of how open and transparent will they be? Here are their responses. How open and transparent is the Cahill administration going to be?
As open and transparent as we've been as Treasury.
Well, I'm a big believer in transparency, and I think we have a long way to go on that one. I mean,
those were their responses. When we asked Governor Deval Patrick's office if they would come in to be interviewed for you, the viewers, as they're seeking your votes in this election, the governor responded by saying, and I quote, would you be able to put on a surrogate who can talk about why the governor is running and outline his major goals, end of quote. This came from his press secretary. Ladies and gentlemen, we're honored to have in our studios at MCTV the surrogate for the governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the governor himself, Governor Deval Patrick. Please welcome the governor to my show. Mr. Governor, thank you for coming. Mr. Governor, how open and transparent will you be with the people of the Commonwealth? Mr. Governor, we're on air. The tape is rolling. You want to answer that? Mr. Governor, if you're reelected, will you raise taxes another 8 times? Mr. Governor, we're on TV, sir. If you don't want to be here, why the look? Why the look, Mr. Governor? I see. All right. Mr. Governor, since you don't want to be open and transparent with us, I'm just going to have security ask you to remove yourself from the set. So I'm going to ask you one more time, Mr. Governor. Do you plan on being open and transparent with the people of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts? Security, apparently the governor does not want to be here today answering the questions for the people. Can you please escort the governor off my set, please, so we can carry on with our next guest? Never mind, security. I'll take care of it myself. Mr. Governor, I have to escort you out. Security's tied up right now. Mr. Governor? Who's pulling your chain, Mr. Governor? Please come back and visit us again when you're open and transparent. Thank you, Mr. Governor. We apologize about that. We thought Mr. Governor was going to be open and transparent, and apparently that wasn't the case. However, we are honored to be joined here today for candidate for state representative, Mr. Chuck Kunowicz.
Thank you for having me.
How open and transparent will you be with the people?
It's all about transparency. That's why I'm running. I'm just so tired of government not being responsive to what the people need. I'm a small business owner, and I see transparency as what we're sorely lacking. The people just don't know what's going on. They've got the information, but they don't realize that the information is telling them that the wrong thing.
What are your plans as far as getting your message out?
Well, basically, my whole strategy is all about taking my campaign to the people. I mean, obviously, representatives have offices, but the fact of the matter is the average person doesn't have the time to be able to go to everyone's office. You know, they care about what's going on, but we're all stuck on this squirrel wheel, and we're all running. And so what I want to do in my campaign is I want to make people aware of what's going on in real terms, not sound bites, not bits of information that's actually intended to mislead people, but to actually lead them to the reality of what's going on. Because I think people don't realize, think people realize how much trouble we're in.
What kind of trouble do you see the people being in?
Well, I mean, the economy is the absolute driving force. In my own store, I would say anecdotally, I mean, I don't keep score, but anecdotally, I would say at least 25% of my customers are unemployed. And that absolutely affects what they buy and how much they spend, which causes a change in how much I spend. So it's just one of those things that, you know, it's all connected, and it doesn't have to be that way. The legislature just that was one of the reasons I actually got running in the first place, was because of the sales tax. When the legislature voted to increase the sales tax, my store happens to be located on the Rhode Island line. And when we raised the sales tax, I saw a decrease in my Rhode Island customers. So everyone talks about how up here all the business goes up to New Hampshire. Well, that's true, but they don't talk about how we're losing it around the entire perimeter of our state. We voted ourselves to be less competitive, and competition is what it's all about.
And what can you do different that hasn't been done now to be able to have the taxes rolled back and better the communities around that you mentioned?
Well, we need, it's not rocket science. That's the key. My committee is the Common Sense Committee to elect Chuck Kunowicz. And it's nuts and bolts. It's not rocket science. So bottom line is we need to make sure that we do the things that allow our businesses to be competitive, allow our residents to live their lives and not be concerned with where is their next mail going to come from, or will they have a job next week, because everything we're doing makes it more difficult on businesses. I'm a small business owner. I've worked for my whole life for myself, from sweeping floors for my neighbors to mowing lawns, the whole bit, and I know it's all about customer service and letting your customers know what it is that you're offering, and making sure that you have a meeting of the minds and that we're all on the same page. And once everyone's on the same page, it goes quite smoothly. And that's, again, where I'm going to come in with the openness, by letting people know that if we go in this direction, this is what we hurt. As a small business owner, the sales tax not only took money out of the hands of consumers, but it also took money out of every business, because most people don't realize that when a customer swipes their credit card, the merchant, the store, has to actually pay a fee as a percentage of that transaction. But that transaction doesn't separate out sales tax from purchase. It takes a percentage of the entire purchase. And so therefore, when the sales tax goes up, the percentage goes along with it. So as a percentage, the merchant actually spends more money than he would have on what's called the merchant fee.
So you're seeking to represent the people of Hudson, Bolton, Maine, and Stone. Name 3 things that you'll be able to do for your district, for the people of your district.
Well, again, the first thing I'm going to do is I want to work on taxes. The sales tax is a killer. It hurts people of low income more than people of high income, because 1% of a low salary is a bigger hit than 1% of a big salary. And our current legislator said to me on the phone that that the reason that she voted to raise the sales tax was to help poor people. That was exactly. She said it was a very difficult decision, but she thought it was more important to help poor people. And it's that kind of logic is why I'm running. It's not rocket science. I also want to make the community a nicer place to be. I want to make sure that we work on public transportation. I live out in the burbs, and we don't have public transportation, and that is one of the areas that many people have worked on, but we've got to get serious about it. Oftentimes, politicians talk about what they're going to do, and they talk a good game, but at the end of the day, what do? And that's why I'm running. And I'm going to let people know why I'm running and what I'm doing. It's all about that communication. I don't plan to put my emphasis even on committees. Committee, they say, is where the action goes. Well, I can tell you I've done my homework. And when I ask about what goes on in certain people in committee, the answer that I got from some representatives was, "Who was that?" And I said, "They're on your committee. You don't even know who they are?" And they're like, "Well, we don't really talk to each other," was the answer I got. So they're not even talking to each other. So that's why nothing's getting done, and that's why you need somebody like me, somebody who's basic and common sense.
And speaking of common sense, what I find interesting is the card that you pass out to your constituents, the General Admission Common Sense Committee. Explain to us, what gave you that idea to come up with something like that?
Well, again, there's a disconnect between what's going on in government and what's going on Main Street. Okay, in my own town, Main Street is the businesses are disappearing. There are so many vacancy signs, and I've been going to unemployed network meetings, and I am blown away by the quality and caliber of the individuals that are unemployed. So what's very clear to me is that these people that are unemployed are not unemployed because they don't want to work or because they're incompetent, because these people I would be honored to hire most of the ones I've met. So clearly there's another reason why they can't find a job. And the reason they can't find a job is that the legislature has failed in its job to create the environment that allows people like me to create jobs. I remind everyone that you cannot create, a politician or a government person cannot create a job. And now when I say, and I get a lot of people who say, that's not true, we've got teachers, and they list all these government jobs that are very worthwhile tasks, don't get me wrong. But you see, in a true sense of the word job means a service is performed and a fee is received that's in proportion to the value of that service. And so a teacher gets their money from somebody who had to provide a service to somebody else. They get, they get a fee is what it is. That's where you pay your property tax, your sales tax, and all these taxes that we pay. But the fact of the matter is that teachers and other government workers, while they do a valuable service, policemen, fire, the fact of the matter is they're overhead. I used to work for a guy, and even though I didn't agree with everything that he thought, he divided all of his employees into producers or overhead. There was no in between. The guy who wrote the bill for the job that went to the customer, the guy who wrote that bill, he was considered overhead. Even though the money wouldn't come in without writing the bill, he still felt that getting the job done for the customer was the producer. And that's the distinction of where we're at with government jobs. Government jobs are not income producing, they're overhead.
Do you see government working to better the people, or are they working to better themselves?
I try to be an optimist, and I know at its core government is here for the people, and I know that there are good government employees. I know they're out there. But the fact of the matter is that I'm in the tropical fish business, so we have a saying that the fish rots from the head down, okay? And the fact of the matter is that the registry runs the way it does because of the fish rotting from the head down. It's when we've got Rachel Caprellian saying that we're not here to give service, I mean, how much more blatant can you be that they're flying their flag of how they view it, that we are here for them, that our job is to be nothing but walking wallets.
Now, government is supposed to work for the people, but some people will argue that government works for themselves. So if government works for the people, shouldn't the records, when a constituent asks for a particular record, shouldn't the government open the books to the public? That's
one of my favorite subjects, actually. A friend of mine, Kamal Jain's running for state auditor, he's told me that in his efforts to get that information that you're speaking of, he taught me, and I saw it, he spoke at Faneuil Hall. He had said that the Freedom of Information Act, come to find out, isn't free. Some of these documents that he's trying to get to the nitty-gritty, they want $10,000 for some of those reports. And, clearly, the people who looked at him and said, yeah, that'll be $10,000, didn't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah. And I mean, again, and if government works for the people, why are they charging the people for information that the people are entitled to?
This is why I'm running. I mean, even in my own business, we don't have any secrets. I've got nothing to hide. My employees know when things are good, and they know when things are not so good. And it's all done by communication. But more importantly, it's not just communication. It's open and honest communication. We don't, we are respectful to one another, of course. But the fact of the matter is that the information we give is not to each other is not misleading. And that's oftentimes what we get from government. They give us the information so that by a strict sense of the word, they're not lying, but their information is designed to actually be misinformation.
Now, the Constitution says that no one should be operating two branches of government. And we've had guests on the show that have been attorneys that are serving at the State House and also practicing attorneys. Do you find that to be a conflict of interest?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. I mean, the relationship that goes on in government, on amongst many of the different individuals and different levels, not just in the judicial branch or the executive branch, but right across. I would use the word incestuous, okay? I mean, if you think about it, you've got lawyers who actually view their clients as nothing but cattle because they come in and they come out. But the lawyers and the judges have to see each other on a regular basis. And the fact of the matter is lawyers and judges are actually more like co-workers rather than adversaries. I mean, and I see the whole system happening that way. I mean, I was in touch with the Massachusetts Retailers Association, and you would think that because they crowed how proud they were of the fact that they worked diligently for our sales tax-free holiday weekend. They were so proud of that. And I said, well, why will you support question 3 to lower the sales tax to 3%? And they said, no, we're not supporting that. And I asked, how come? How can you not? You're the Retailers Association. Whose interest are you looking out for? And yet you see the benefits of the sales tax-free weekend, but you're telling me that those benefits don't apply the whole rest of the year? And, you know, let me give you his answer. His answer was, after the sales tax question is on the ballot, and if by chance it fails, and we had supported it, the people who were working on it, they get to fade in the background, and we at the Retailers Association have to continue working with the legislature. And my answer is, yeah, so? But that's what happens with these well-intended organizations. That's what happens with government, and that's what's happening with the Retailers Association. And the last I knew, the Massachusetts Restaurant Association was not backing question 3. And these are the people who are supposed to be looking out for us. So how do you expect, you know, government to be looking out for us? They become numb. They become numb to what they're doing.
And you also see that they close the open meeting laws to particular people and to the public. What would you do to fight against them closing an open meeting?
Well, I don't have a snappy answer, but I can tell you that it would seem to me that that could be fixed legislatively.
How?
It's just simply a matter of designing a law that actually determines what is to be considered confidential.
Well, it's my understanding that, so are you seeking to create more laws, or are you seeking to reduce laws?
Well, in the process of opening things up, you might create another law. But the fact of the matter is when I used to sit in on the selectmen's meetings, I didn't have an understanding of this term called executive session. And frequently, I would be the only resident of the town at their meeting. And so I would be sitting there taking it all in, and then they would say, okay, we're going to executive session. And I just sat there, and everyone on the table just sat there and stared at me. And I'm sitting there like, hello, what's the matter? And they said, this is executive session. And I said, so? And they said, no, you can't be here, you have to go.
So is it fair to say that you agree that all meeting laws should remain open to the public?
Well, I'm always uncomfortable with extreme words of all, every, none, okay, because life isn't cut and dry like that. There are situations where there does need to be privacy respected, but my inclination is that we could open up probably 90%, especially salaries and benefits and things like that.
When you say that privacy, should government employees that are paid by taxpayers have privacy?
I believe there are situations, and I can't give you a specific example, but once again, in my life, I've learned that, well, the extreme word of nothing, there are no absolutes. There's always those shades of gray.
I'll give you an example. Here in Methuen, we have a chief of police who was suspended, terminated, let go. And the city and the chief of police decided to, instead of having an open meeting, they were going to bring it to a committee. That committee ended up ruling against the city. So basically, if the meetings were open to the public, because chief of police is paid by taxpayers, so if it's open to the public would have known what was happening. So most people will say that now there's an appeal process up to the Supreme Court or the Superior Court to get that ruling information. So basically, people's arguments are basically, if that meeting was open to the public,
First place.
we wouldn't be spending more of the taxpayers' money on a duplication.
Again, I refer to the Common Sense Committee. That's, you know, as you've described it, that sounds like something that should be open to everyone, because, again, we're not talking about the nitty-gritty of somebody's personal situation that, you know, needs to be respected. I mean, we're talking about policy of a municipality, and that's a totally different ballgame. And as I say, my suspicion is that these executive sessions, they say that it's done for the privacy of the individual, but in reality, it's done to protect the people on the other side of it who are doing the negotiations, particularly for contracts. You know, because to me, I want to know who signed their name, who caved in on these contracts. You know, who caved in to allow city workers 1 hour pay every Friday to go cash their check. Who was the man who said, yeah, let's do that? Now, granted, I know that those negotiations happen as a result of another negotiation where the union wants something even more expensive, so they negotiate at a halfway point. Well, I'm sorry, bogus is bogus, and if it's no good, it's no good, and I don't care. The answer is no.
Now, should anybody in government that's not open and transparent, should they be rewarded with additional fundings? Taxpayers' funding?
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, one of my, you know, I'm running for smaller government and less taxes, open and transparency, without a doubt. Okay, and one of the things that has me all fired up is people say to me, "Where are you going to get the extra money from to sustain the government? Where is the state going to get this money from if you cut the taxes?" Well, what people don't realize is that when we talk about the state budget being $26.7 billion, that's actually a lie. Okay? The fact of the matter is that the real state budget is almost double, $53 billion, I believe, is where it's at. And where does the other half of that budget come from? It comes from what's called off-budget budgets. Okay? So when we talk about the $27 billion, we're actually talking about a budget called the statutory budget. But in the off-budget budget is where the other money is spent. But they won't tell us what's in there because, again, we don't know what's in there. So we can only assume that the reason they won't tell us is because they know that we'll be up in arms when we find out how much a duplication of effort is being done in there, how much money is patronage, how much money, because we don't know. And that's, again, what we need to get at. For most people, when you talk about the off-budget budget, they assume that they put you in the kook box. And what happens then is you get ignored. But the fact of the matter is, for the first time, a mainstream politician, Charlie Baker, mentioned on the Dan Ray show, okay, he mentioned that the budget was $53 billion or 50-something billion, and that it was in the off budget. And Dan Ray said, "Are you agreeing with those crazy tax cutters?" And Charlie Baker basically said, "Well, it is what it is."
Did you watch the debate last night?
Unfortunately, I was not able to watch it, but I'm going to watch it online. It's being repeated. So
great. Now, if people wanted to volunteer to help you in this election, what do they need to do? Where do they need to go? Who do they need to contact in order to reach you and help you?
Well, the best way is to contact me either through my website, votechuckk.com, or you can send me an email, chuck@votechuckk.com. We went with Chuck K because, well, Kunowicz is just a little bit of a tongue twister for people.
And it was for me as well, Chuck Kunowicz.
We practiced.
Yeah, it is. So name me one quick thing, name me two quick things that you will bring if you're elected. What would be your first two bills that you would want to bring forward for your constituents?
Again, I want to lower taxes. I want to put the money back into the hands of the people who will spend it and spend it wisely. That's my number one thing. My second thing, I haven't given a whole lot through because my focus is on smaller government and less taxes, and many other things will fall into place after that.
And I want to follow up a little bit more about the cutting government. When you say cutting government, are you talking about cutting the low-end people, or are you cutting the top-end people making the highest salary to work your way down?
Oh, absolutely, at the top end. I mean, you know, you can start at pension reform. I mean, we've been told we had pension reform, but they only did, in their own words, the low dangling fruit. I mean, again, I stress that while I say I'm running for smaller government, I should be more clear and say that I'm running for efficient government. I mean, if we can have a big, efficient government, I'm okay with that. But we all know that there's a tremendous amount of waste, and no matter how much money we give them, it's never going to be enough.
It's never enough, and it just seems that taxpayers are paying too much. Their taxes are going up, and they're not. Government's really not working for the people right now.
The standard line is of all the money that the government takes in, okay, how much of it will they spend? And the answer is all of it.
Yeah. And meanwhile, they keep coming back for more. So the people keep bailing out government. We've seen that in the bank industries. We've seen that within government themselves. If they don't balance their budget, will you commit to bringing a bill that requires balanced budgets for your district?
Well, my understanding is that their law already stipulates that the budget has to be balanced. That the way they negotiate, though, is how they define what's balanced, where they get the money from. Right now, they're getting the money from stimulus money. That's how they balanced the 2010 budget.
That's why. That's how it. Well, I just want to remind the viewers, you are watching Behind the Scenes. I am your host, Hector Montalvo. We are speaking with candidate for State Representative Chuck Kay. And if you want to send us an email, you can email the show at the Hector Montalvo Show at yahoo.com or visit our website at behindthescenes.weebly.com. Chuck, we have a minute or so left. Is there anything that you want to say to the constituents as to why they should vote for you?
Well, basically, everything we've been saying is why they should vote for me. I want to ask for your vote. That's what I'm asking for. And if you want to have a question, if you want to question me, feel free. My webpage is votechuckkay.com. You can contact me directly through there. I'm very good about responding. So I ask for your vote because it's going to be better for everyone.
Well, we appreciate you being open and transparent. I apologize for you for the governor not being open and transparent in the early segment. Once again, you've been watching Behind the Scenes. Join us next time as we go behind the scenes to ask the tough questions, bring you their responses, and we let you decide. Thank you for watching.